Hey, so I needed to do a stack of bagging and boarding books. That let's see if you can see that. These books need to get rebagged and boarded. Some of them need to be rebagged and boarded. Anyway, I need to go through all of them. Um, so I figured I was gonna be kind of sitting in one place and not doing much. So maybe record it. May not be very interesting for you, but maybe just rant a little bit, just talk about stuff, think about stuff. Just kind of a casual chat about, I don't know, whatever. While I do this, because, you got to do something, I suppose. So, uh, this may never see the light of day. Who knows? We'll see how it goes. Felt chatty, might delete, sort of thing going on. Probably just gonna see the top of my head for most of this because I'm looking down and doing my thing. Let's see. So I was recently asked the question, uh, why comics? Why comics? Out of all the things in the world to get into, to be interested in, what is it about comics that made it the thing? That made it the thing for me. And it made me think. Like I don't know, why comics? Why? What is it that maybe comic people in general, get out of it? I did a video a while ago about the different types of collecting, different types of collectors. That are out there. Some are, they collect because they just read the stories. They enjoy the stories. They collect for financial reasons or to flip things. There's a number of reasons why people collect, but those same things, the investing aspect of it, the getting a good story out of it. That's or one of my things is I have that sort of collecting mentality. Like I really like to be collecting something. I always like to have an incomplete something that I'm working on. So comics for me scratches a lot of different itches, but those same itches could be scratched by other things. Right? If it was something I was just in it for an investment, there are other. There's actual investing, stocks and trading and things like that, which are certainly, at least, I've been potentially more lucrative. Especially how I don't sell anything, so I'm not really making any money off anything. It's still an investment, but it's not. I don't get dividends, right? I don't put a bunch of stuff in my comic safe and every so often just money appears. Like there are better ways to invest for sure. Not that I don't do some of that as well, but a good chunk of what would probably be my investment income goes towards comics and stuff. So. Stories, you can get good stories. Comics is just another medium, like books, movies. What do I want to do with this one? I feel this should be rebagged. Books, movies, podcasts. I don't know. Whatever. This is a sexy looking book. I'll go over these in an actual video for it, but preview, like, this is a sexy looking little book there. I want to show this side. Is this a flip book, or does it just have? It is a flip book. part one. Well, which part goes first? Which part do I read first? They're both marked as part 1 of 5. So which? Problem for another time. What was I even talking about? It doesn't matter. Whatever. Oh, so yeah. So why comics? So well, I was going somewhere. I swear. So okay. So if you're doing it for investment or whatever, or it's that collecting itch that needs to get scratched like it does for me. There are other things that that could do the same thing. Oh, I think I get it. Oh, it's two different stories. Huh. Neat. 90s. I'll tell you. 90s, the dark age of comics. What a time. What a time. Um what you someone who's not interested in comics doesn't get into investing comics. You don't hear about, oh man, people are making all kinds of money with comics. I'm going to start investing in comics. Because in order to invest in comics successfully in any way, you have to know about it. And to know about it enough to be successful, you have to care about it. So it's you just don't see someone like someone who just get into investing in stocks or whatever. You have to know about it, have to know what you're doing. But I mean, you can get a financial advisor to say, hey, tell me where to put my money. So if someone is just in it for investment, why there had to be some draw to the comics themselves. What is that? Why? So why comics? I guess for me, again, it's nice to have one thing that satisfies a bunch of my wants, desires. Again, that sort of collecting. I've always been collecting stuff. I mean, I've gone through, like video games used to be my thing. I used to collect a lot of video games. At the time, I worked at a video game store. It was a good time when people didn't. It was before like video games really took off as far as being expensive. Before that whole thing really kind of happened. So I was able to get a lot of really cool games for good prices, and plus working at a used game store, I got first dibs on some of the cool stuff that came in. I really liked Working Designs. A Japanese publisher was big. With like the Sega CD, Sega Saturn, they had like a TurboGrafx game or whatever. So I just just bought all the Working Designs games as they came in. I would just like, oh, well, what other Working Designs? I want it. And my favorite RPG was published by Working Designs here in the States. So Lunar, if you haven't played it, it's really good. So that satisfied. Like, I love video games, so it satisfied that collecting part, but I also played the games. But I kind of got out of that. And I didn't really get into comics until, man, I buy some dumb stuff. I don't know, until my early to mid 20s, probably. When I was growing up, I had a friend that was really into comics. He introduced me to some of the ideas, and I bought a few comics off of racks and whatnot. I collected like the comic trading cards and stuff without even really being a comic reader. It was something to collect, and it was cool, and my friend did it too, so it had something we could kind of do together. but I didn't really get into comics until a bit later. And it eventually just kind of took over. But why? What's the appeal? So the collecting part, again, there's always more to collect, and I think that was probably a problem with video games. And when I collect within a thing, within video games or comics, I don't want to collect just to be collecting. I want to collect stuff that I like. And with video games, it got to the point where there wasn't really much more for me to get. Comics, there is it has no end. And just my Spider-Man problem. It just keeps going. I keep expanding it, and there's always more Spider-Man. And then I can go into other things like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I have runs of that going on, and there's always more stuff that I'm actually into in comics. So that collector thing is well satisfied. But what is it about the medium itself that I like? I don't read normal books as much as I used to. I used to read all the time, just read just standard books all the time. Now, I'm not that I have a problem with it. I still I don't have time because I do this to myself, where I put myself in a position where I have so many comics and graphic novels and all this other stuff that needs to get read that I don't have time for normal books, fiction, nonfiction, all of it. I used to read. I used to read a lot of science stuff, and politics and philosophy, but I just don't have time, as well as fiction. So, what is it? You think of regular, you say regular books. I just don't have a better term for it, but you know what I mean. There's so much diversity there, and something that I think that people outside of the comic book community don't realize that there's a lot of diversity in comics too. The go-to is superhero stuff, and I mean it's my go-to. It's what I love the most, but that's not all that there is. There's stuff for everyone on every topic, and there's fiction, there's nonfiction, there's more fiction than there's nonfiction, but it's all there. There's stuff you can learn from. There's books like Mouse. There's what is it? Where it's all about. This is really embarrassing because as being a programmer, I should remember it. I just want to see it. I don't even know where it's at. It was about building of the building of the first. It wasn't Turing. What is that book? Now it's killing me. Now it's killing me. The Thrilling Adventures of Lovelace and Babbage. It's about early computer science stuff. It was really cool. It was really good. There's some fun stuff in there. It was interesting stuff, but it had some humor and whatnot. But it told it in an interesting way, because that's what you want to do with. You have a medium like comics, where you have both words and images. You can do more interesting things, more interesting ways to tell stories. So you got to do that. Well, you should do that. You should take advantage of that. But yeah, you get the combination of words and pictures, and whereas books are just words and sometimes kind of illustrated, but not to the extent. But it's that combination of both. You get the story and you get this art along with it. Sometimes the art is better than others. And I mean, they're quicker reads because so much of what would be in sort of this exposition of describing the surroundings and whatnot, and describing action. It's just done through the image. I don't think it's, people might see comic, as children, as childish, and it's like it's dumbed down, right? You don't have to read as much. It's dumbed down. Like, no, it's just a different way of explaining the scene. The stories themselves can be just as deep, or as deep as they need to be, or want to be, by the writer and I should say the artists. When I say artists, I count the writer as grouped in that. It's just another medium for telling stories. When someone asks me, why comics? Why are you interested in comics? Like, why are you interested in movies? I like the stories that they have to tell. It's the same. It's almost the same question to me. Now, asking like why collecting, that's a whole different thing. But when it comes to like why comics, as in why do you enjoy actually reading comics? Yeah, why do you like books? Why do you like movies? Why do you like TV shows? That's like, no one would ask that question. No one asks the question of why do you like movies? It's I like stories. Everyone likes stories, or being entertained, or getting information in some way. And it's just another way to do that. Now, for the kind of stories that you get with comics, that's another. Generally, you get the superhero stuff. That's what I lean towards. I like a lot of other stuff as well, but I love superheroes. What appeal does that have? It's like, there's, generally speaking, it's a fairly, the stories themselves obviously get very complex, and storylines and whatnot, but there's always the thread of good versus evil. That's a, what am I doing? What a Death's Head 2. Come on. And you think that's not even the worst thing I have in here. That's not even the worst thing. Oh, the worst thing? The worst thing is I haven't... Fool Killer. Fool Killer. Idiot. Such an idiot. There's generally this, it gets more complicated than that, but overall, there's this concept in comics and superhero comics. There's the concept of good versus evil, and generally speaking, I will say overall, good wins. And I like it's I'm dumbing it down and oversimplifying it, but in a world where so often things are unfair and justice is not served, it's nice to see that happen. And that's not the real world, but it's part of the fantasy. I mean, there's other fantasy as well when it comes to comics, people flying, things like that. But also just the fantasy of, what? Things in the world work out. Because they usually do in comics. In the end, things work out. That's not always how it is in real life. So that's part of the fantasy, part of the escape. But also, like, there are people flying. Like, that's cool. Obviously, like, how awesome would it be to have these powers in real life, and you can like live vicariously through these fictional characters. Let's see, my stack is starting to... Gotta take care of this. Gotta do something. Gotta start doing things. Making some moves. My stack is starting to tip. That seems good enough. Good enough. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's. I'd be interested to hear what other people like. Why what got you into comics? Why not just what got you into comics, but what kept you in them? Like what is the thing that keeps what keeps your interest? Why do you keep reading? Um, I'm sure for a lot of people, it's sort of a nostalgia thing. Like they grew up reading comics and they just never stopped. That's not really the case for me, but I can see that as being comics is all I've known. Why would I change it? You enjoy them, continue to enjoy them. Um, Obviously, as time has gone on, comics have grown up as well. You it seems to kind of grow, not necessarily with the audience, a little bit slower pace than the audience, probably, but it grows. They grow. They get, and I mean that's just with the changing of the times where um, we as a society become more progressive. We're okay with, you know, characters being gay, right? Like, you know, there was a time where that would have been like you just couldn't do it, just wouldn't be able to do it. Um, when there's, I don't know, when was the first superhero of color? It's probably later than you think it is. Um, what probably I don't know who would be. Well, Black Panther. Black Panther. So, in Marvel anyway. Uh, what's that? Fantastic Four, 52. So mid to late 60s, something like that. But that is so yeah. So as a society gets more progressive, not just comics but everything, because it gets we get more risque movies and whatnot and stuff like that. But where did I come from with that? Oh yeah. So if you started reading, so let's say if you're someone of my general age, and you grew up reading comics, maybe in the 80s, late 80s, maybe. And you just kept reading, like as you have matured, so have comics. They were definitely targeted towards a younger audience in the 80s, but now they're more targeted towards an older audience. Like, hey, that's convenient. So it's comics have I think comics have kind of grown with my generation. For a long time it was just this is for kids, this is for kids. But now I think the target is more towards my actual age. It's always it was a lucky generation to be born in, I suppose. But that is another thing that I really enjoy and respect about comics as a medium, is that generally they have been progressive on that edge. We eventually did get black superhero again. It happened probably later than you might think, but it still happened pretty early on. It's just my own perception of time as being born in when I was born. 60s seems like forever ago, because I wasn't around then. But comics has always been on the progressive side of things. Not shying away from having characters of I want to say non-normative backgrounds or like different gender identities and race, and I still feel that there's like when it shouldn't be this way, but when I see whether it's in comics or any place else, when there's like a mixed race couple, I think good for them. Good for them. Not the mixed race couple. It's, I mean, like in fiction. I'm talking about like not on the street or whatever, but in fiction when like it would be TV or whatever is a mixed race couple. I think good for them. Not for the fictional characters, but good for them for the whoever put that thing together. But I shouldn't. Because it should be so normal now that why is that even a thing? But it's for me, it's like I don't have a problem with it. For me, it's just people loving people. But I feel that it's not. That's not accepted by me, but it's not accepted by us as a society yet, to a place where you can just throw it in nonchalantly and it not be a thing. It's still a thing. It's still that's it. That's how I want to say. It's still a thing. It's still a thing to be noticed. And hopefully someday soon it won't be. It'll just be people being people loving people. But I've always respected that about it, because generally speaking, comic creators and companies lean towards the progressive. Like it was a big deal when like Stan Lee, before there were like main characters of color or ethnicities or however you want to put it. He made a... Jeez, I'm mangling this. This sticker is insane. What are you doing? There we go. Okay. Oh, man. Biodome. An ad for Biodome. He made it a point, like, make sure, like, in the background, like black people are represented. Make sure there's I mean, sometimes they're way in the background. Sometimes it's like it's a cop, just nameless cop that happens to show up in a scene. But that was something that he make a point to do this. We are not this monochrome society. Whether some people like it or not, it's the way that it is. So let's reflect that in our world, in our stories. Yeah, that's respectable, especially at a time like that when early '60s, if wasn't the most stable time period when it came to race relations. I don't know. What do I know? I don't want to. I'm not trying to speak for for a group of people that I am not a part of. I'm just saying that I personally respect that. That is something. That is some chrome. So I don't know. I don't know. Just Baggin and Boardin. Thoughts go through the head. Might as well put them out loud. And if I'm going to put them out loud, might as well record it. I guess. I don't know. Maybe I've probably lost everyone by now. Doesn't matter. But yeah, I'm about wrapped up here. So let me know what you think. What your opinions on things. Comment something or weigh in on the conversation of why comics for you. If you like these dumb rambly videos, I guess let me know. If not, then I won't bother doing them. I just figured might as well just hit record while I'm doing nothing. As long as I got something on my mind I can somewhat talk about and fill the space with something other than dead air. But yeah, let me know what you think about this sort of weird format where you get to look at the top and the side of my face, and I just ramble about nonsense. And then I'll go and weigh in on the topic. So yeah, all that stuff. Like, comment, subscribe. You know the drill. Do all those things. Do the things. You got it. This video was brought to you by Titan Comic Pressing. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Titan Comic Pressing LLC.